From courtside of the virtual hardwood, it's the NLSC Podcast. This is episode 517. I am Andrew in our forum, Andrew NLSC on X. With me as always, my co-host Derek, DV3 in our forum, and DV3G and DV384 on X. Derek, let's tip things off by talking about last week's top 10 plays of the week, the weekly feature you do for the NLSC YouTube channel. What a spectacular countdown of community highlights.
It was amazing. And this was my description on the YouTube video. Variety is the name of the game in this countdown. A half-court heave, a full-court oop, an oop off the glass, a sweet Euro step, flashy dunks, poster dunks, all capped off by a ridiculous game winner, something that I've never seen before. And we're going to get into that in a moment. And that was on NBA 2K24, submitted by @EpicArtworks over on X. But Andrew, this is some of the most variety that we've ever had in the countdown, not only from a highlight standpoint, but also because of the number of games that were played and were sent in for submissions. So the half-court heat was you, Andrew. This was you on NBA 2K6 with Steve Francis, and it was the end of the quarter buzzer beater. And like you and I talked about off air, ever since the top 10 has become a staple of the NLSC. And, we're coming up on year 4 now, which is just unreal how long it's been going and how consistent it's been. But every single time we have an opportunity to shoot a half court or full court shot, we don't care about the stats, Andrew.
No.
Because we want to get it into the top 10 plays of the week.
Well, this is how it used to be back in the day. And not to go on another old man rant here, but so many plays these days do have percentages and numbers of some kind, efficiency stats or whatever, built into their contracts. So they won't always take that full court shot or that half court shot at the end of quarters, where back in the day, players were just trying to go for that. Oh, we've got 3 seconds left. We can get off a shot. Let's see if we can add 3 points to the score. So they would do that. To hell with the percentages or whatever. So yeah, I've tried to get back into that mindset with my career when I'm playing it in 2K14. Any exhibition games I play, any franchise or dynasty mode games that I play, I'm trying to go for highlights, obviously, and it's just made my basketball gaming so much more fun. And yeah, I was pretty stoked when that went in because I don't make a lot of them, and maybe that's just because I've started getting back into those Hail Mary heaves. But when that went in, I said, I'm going to send this to Derek, and I sent it to you right away.
Yeah, good luck getting a perfect release on a half or a full court shot. So my brother and I, over the last few years, every single time we put up a half court or a full court shot, we say top 10 and hope that it goes in. So I know that I've heard Nate and Roger, Live 01 Legends, also say top 10 when they do something, like throw a heave or, make a good highlight and whatnot. So it's really cool that people are thinking about the top 10 while they're having their sessions with basketball video games. So the next thing I mentioned on that description was a full court oop. And this was on NBA Live 06 for Xbox 360. And this actually happened during our co-op session over Parsec. And it's a full court oop to Theo Ratliff, who catches it two-handed and throws it down. It looked beautiful. And how about that replay from behind the backboard?
Perfect.
Like that play couldn't have played out any better. And once again, shows off those amazing visuals from the 360 version of Live 06. We talked about it on the last show. From a graphical standpoint, it's superior to NBA 2K6. And you can tell that they were going for a really a lifelike approach to those graphics. They tried to make them as realistic as possible.
Came out fantastic. As we said on last week's show, there are criticisms you can make of Live 06 for 360, but graphics, for the time, obviously, not one of them. Gameplay, again, very solid gameplay. We love getting on the sticks with that game. It is the lack of depth that really set that game back. 07 was the real big downer for the series, as we also covered last week. So that was you throwing the alley-oop, I'm pretty sure. Was that an accidental button press, or was that intentional?
Well, considering it was Sebastian Telfair being the point man there, it was an accidental button press. But honestly, Andrew, I can't remember, because that was actually deep into the second quarter, and we had basically, got comfortable with the buttons again. I honestly can't remember if it was accidental or on purpose, but we're going to say it was accidental because it was Sebastian Telfair.
Worked out, though. We'll take it. I mean, that was, yeah.
Perfect. It looks awesome. Sometimes the accidental plays are the best for the top 10. Also, I want to point out that I'm interested in what the Live King has to say if he ends up picking up NBA Live 06 for the 360, because as a result of me posting this top 10 on X, he commented that he saw a good deal on it online. So I think he's going to end up picking up that game. And I don't know if he played it when it first came out. I'm sure he did, because he's been around forever, playing the NBA Lives, posting footage and whatnot. But, it has sliders. He loves messing with sliders. And I'd be curious to see how he likes revisiting that title or playing it for the first time.
Me too. And I'll put it out there that I do have a slider set that I worked on during my big NBA Live 06 kick back in 2021. I posted a link on my X in response to Bucky T there. And if you do adjust the sliders, you make it a little bit faster, a little bit smoother in that respect. Turn down the fouls. That is the big thing. But
turn the fouls and turn game speed to 100.
Yes, basically. But this is something that we've started to do, Derek, and I'd like to do more of. We've been helping people get old games to run, obviously, and that is something we'll continue to do, but helping people to optimize retro gaming and get the most out of it and suggest slider tweaks for these classics where appropriate. I'm all about that. I'd love to do more support of the retro basketball gaming community.
Yeah, I also want to point out in relation to, troubleshooting and emulators and whatnot. So I got a new gaming laptop to, as a backup for my desktop, and just, if I want to, have a relaxing session, up in my room instead of in the living room, etc. I can just throw on the laptop and whatnot and connect on Parsec or play games and whatnot. But this computer that I got, this laptop, has Windows 11 Pro. And so I've been installing all the emulators, and downloading the ROMs and whatnot, and seeing, am I going to have any compatibility issues with Windows 11? And so far, I haven't run into any issues. The NES, Super NES, Sega Genesis, PlayStation 2, Dreamcast, all of these different emulators, GameCube and whatnot, they are all working awesome on Windows 11 Pro. So for those of you who may not want to upgrade from Windows 10 to Windows 11, or you're interested in a new computer, but it has Windows 11, so you're hesitant, just to let you know, so far I have not run into any issues. Now, I haven't tried installing any disc games, right? Like the old NBA Lives, like NBA Live 2000, NBA Live 2003, Live 2004. So the verdict is out on that. I haven't tried those yet. But for Steam games, going all the way back to NBA 2K9, and all of the emulators, I have not run into an issue.
That's good news. That's really good news, because that was initially our hesitation with getting Windows 11. It's why I went with Windows 10 on the new desktop that I got last year when I got it custom built. So that is definitely good news to know that Windows 11 isn't having those compatibility issues that we were fearful of. I also have to give a shout out to the people who are working on the latest nightly builds of the PS2 emulator, PCSX2, of course, because it seems there's a lot more compatibility with games. I actually played NBA Street off the disc. Now, it wasn't running as well running off the disc, and running a PAL disc at that, because there's only 50 frames per second. I do want to try out an NTSC ISO for that, but NBA Street does seem to be working better than it used to. Looks like they're making some great updates to that emulator. And as I said on the Discord, I do know that the GameCube emulator works a lot better with NBA Street. Works flawlessly, in fact. But I'm really glad to see the PS2 emulator getting more compatibility. It's really cool. And of course, that's the version that I grew up playing. So I'd like to be able to cover that for Wayback Wednesday.
Both the PlayStation 2 emulator and DuckStation, the PlayStation 1 emulator, have never worked better. They have so many options in relation to resolution, frame rate, being able to optimize it for your system. The games run better. They look better. You can record the action better. So yeah, I love having the updated versions of those emulators. And yeah, the GameCube emulator, Dolphin, that is one of the best emulators out there. The games look beautiful. It runs perfect. So the next highlight I want to talk about was that oop off of the glass. And this was on NBA 2K14. And winner 77 was using either the UBR or URB for his session. And he was using an early 90s Miami Heat team with Glenn Rice. And he throws an alley-oop. This is very hard to trigger in NBA 2K14 for the PC. He throws an alley-oop from the left side of the floor off the top part of the glass. So not off the top of the glass, but top front of the glass. And Glenn Rice comes flying in and catches it two hands and throws it down loud. And that is one of the harder animations to trigger. But whenever you get it, it is awesome. And I couldn't help but put that at number 2 because it flowed so beautifully and it was a really loud oop.
Oh, I love whenever I can get an alley-oop off the glass in the PS4 version. As you say, not easy to trigger on PC, that last-gen version, but just looked awesome.
Yeah, and we already know this. NBA 2K14, NBA 2K13, NBA 2K12, just the alley-oops work so well. They trigger incredibly well. Players are not getting caught on each other all the time. When you're trying to, throw that oop, it's a pretty seamless process. And you love throwing alley-oops on 2K14.
Addicted to it, yeah.
So the next play is a sweet Euro step on NBA 2K24 by Relhouse. And I'm a sucker for plays like this. That, like the flashy moves that either make somebody fall to the floor like an ankle breaker or like a Euro step that has the defender completely fooled, so he steps out of the way and you get a wide open layup. It's the reason why I love watching players like Jason Williams and Allen Iverson and those types of players who just completely embarrass their defenders. So he does this Euro step and flicks the ball in, I want to say with his left hand, and I had to put that in the top 5 in the countdown as well because, it's not always about dunks, Andrew. It's nice to see those ankle breakers, those Euro steps, the sweet acrobatic layups, etc. So, yeah, great job by Relhouse on NBA 2K24.
No, it really exemplified the theme, if you will, of last week's countdown. Just such unique highlights. And, look, I love dunks. I'm never disappointed, I should say, to see a countdown full of spectacular dunks, as I'm not in real life either. But when you have that variety, 8 different games, such a variety of highlights and different kinds of highlights, and half-court lobs and half-court heaves and plays like that, the great dribbling moves, and of course explosive dunks, and then the top play, which I'm sure you'll get to momentarily. Yeah, it was just a really exciting countdown.
So yeah, let's get to the dunks, Andrew. Flashy dunks. So the Live King was playing NBA 2K19, and he submitted a Vince Carter steal and breakaway jam. And the jam was one of Vince Carter's signature dunks. It was his 360 with two hands, where he throws it down and hangs on the rim for a second before he drops. And it was nice to see him playing NBA 2K19, and that game has some of the most fluid animations in NBA 2K's history. And then there was also Teddy Bear the Gamer at 317 Teddy Bear over on X, who submitted a highlight of Michael Jordan on NBA 2K24, and this was an all-star game highlight. And he also gets a steal, gets out on the break, and does an acrobatic one-handed jam where he basically, it almost looks like he traps the ball on his ankle and then finishes it on the opposite side of the rim. So those 2 flashy dunks were excellent.
Yeah, Teddy Bear has sent us quite a few all-star highlights of MJ in particular, and that's always welcome to see. But yeah, the way he just cuffed the ball, brought it down to the ankle, like you say, and then threw it down, with almost like a kiss the rim as well, going underneath, just very MJ-esque. And yeah, that Vince Carter highlight from the Live King was so authentic, and that is something that I've loved about video games over the years, getting those signature animations that we always talked about back in the early days of basketball gaming, Derek. We want to see players actually dunking like their real-life selves and shooting with their real-life forms, and we do have it.
Yeah. 2K19 also just can produce some of the best highlights.
I love that game, yeah.
Figured that out over the last couple of years, the more we play it. And Ken Stildo and I, whenever we connect on NBA 2K19, there are just so many good highlights. And him and I are going to be starting a 97-98 season using that amazing Classic Seasons mod soon. And we're going to be playing co-op, and we're going to be using the Lakers. He's going to lock on Shaq. I'm going to use the rest of the players. We're going to play a 29-game season, 10-minute quarters, and be ready for those highlights because they're going to go up on the NLSC YouTube and on his Neon and Butch Gaming YouTube. So that will be a lot of fun. So then we have poster dunks, Andrew. So Kenny Young, at Kenny Young on X, submitted a highlight from NBA 2K23. And I believe this is from his MyTEAM. So he comes in from the baseline with David Thompson, and he absolutely throws down a ridiculous one-handed hammer poster over a defender. And he has two different replays that go with that dunk, and they're from slightly different angles. But my God, that is an amazing poster dunk. And any other week, that would probably be in the top 3.
That's the thing. As the community has really gotten into the top 10 over these past 3, as you say, going on 4 years, the highlights are just getting better and better to the point where, there's a lot of times in the countdown, something that could be top 3 or even the top play of the week is at the 4th or 5th spot. And to everyone's credit, nobody complains. We often talk about this. Nobody has ever complained about placement. People just love the countdown and what you do with it, rightfully so. But yeah, that was easily top 3 or the top play of the week in many weeks.
Year 3, week 41, and no complaints about the placement of any of the highlights. So I want to thank the community for that, just kind of letting me do my own thing and, kind of respecting the format of the top 10 and what we're trying to accomplish here, which is basically just, celebrating basketball gaming and celebrating the community. And then let's get to that number 1 play. And there was a comment about this on the YouTube video, and I think he said it perfectly. He goes, number 2 is such a tough animation, but goodness, number 1 is crazy. Forcing 2 successful possessions in 0.9 seconds to win like that is something I've never seen in my life and is an all-timer. And the person who submitted that is at Epic Artworks on X, and he commented also on the YouTube video, and he stated, so hyped to see me at number 1. Shout out to the dude who played against me because in that tournament, he fought so hard to win and practically won it until that miracle. So he was playing NBA 2K24 against somebody in a competitive atmosphere. And basically what this highlight is there was 0.9 seconds left, and he was using the Celtics, and he was against the Clippers. So the score was 67-65 Clippers, and he was taking out the ball sideline, and he threw an alley-oop to Jason Tatum, who threw it down, and that left 0.6 seconds on the clock. So the person who was using the Clippers took a timeout, and that had him advance the ball to around half court, and he was taking the ball out sidelines. And he went for a game winner alley-oop. But the problem is not only was that alley-oop not successful, but he never got the ball in on time. There was a 5-second violation. So still 0.6 seconds on the clock. Score 67-67. And now Epic Artworks has the ball again. So he has to take the ball out. I don't know if he was out of timeouts or what, but he has to take the ball out from probably about 3/4 court. And it's Derek White passing it in. And he throws it the length of the court to Porzingis, who's around the foul line, and he flicks up a really quick shot, and it goes in. So he was down 2 with 0.9 seconds, and he ended up winning the game by 2 with those sequences. That is wild. I've never seen that before. He scored 4 points in that 0.9 seconds and got a stop.
We know, Derek, we talk about the great games back in the day, and rightfully so, but there were a lot of games back in the day where you couldn't make those plays. You couldn't make those inbounds lobs. You couldn't get that quick shot off with 0.6 of a second left. So that is something that has improved over the years. And what a miraculous play. Those are the kinds of plays that would make it into the top 10 of NBA action. And they'd be some of the top plays of the year. Those miraculous plays that we do see sometimes in real life. So to see that happen on the virtual hardwood as well was really special.
Yeah. I would love to see more plays like that. I love game winners, right? I love game winners. And I think that what makes that highlight also special is the fact that he was playing against another human, right? And so I think whether it's, you playing co-op with somebody or playing against another human, the fact that these things happen during shared experiences makes it that much more special. I also want to point out one more highlight before we get to my tips on, how to submit highlights for the top 10. Slam Shaq versus the Legends. At B-Ball Video Games submitted this highlight, and I'd actually never heard of this game. So Slam Shaq versus the Legends is an unreleased basketball Sega Mega Drive game, which licensed the name and likeness of NBA player Shaquille O'Neal. So a prototype was found and released by DRX of hiddenpalace.org on March 5th, 2008. And so I'm not sure exactly how he's playing this. I don't know if it's via an emulator or what, but he got his hands on this game. And it looks very much like a game, like similar to like Barkley Shut Up and Jam, right? Like it's an NBA Jam style
clone
game,
if you will. Yeah.
Kind of like an NBA Jam clone. It's a 2-on-2 full court game. At least that's what it appears to be. There's a tournament option in the mode. There's a create a player option. There's also a create a slam option, Andrew. So you can create your own dunk. That's kind of neat. We would have messed around with that a lot back in the day. But it looks very interesting. And yeah, I had to put that highlight in the top 10.
Oh, for sure. Whenever we have an unreleased game that we can spotlight. I've been meaning to talk about that for Way Back Wednesday for at least a couple of years now, since I was made aware of it. As you say, it was released back in 2008 when the prototype was found, but I didn't know anything about it. It is a game that was made by EA Sports. It was the game that got them to license Shaq, which is why Shaq is exclusive to NBA Live 96 and 97. I believe that's the way that came about. But a very interesting game, yeah. I also downloaded it, so we're going to have to connect on that and play it sometime.
No, yeah, I would definitely play that. I think there were a lot of attempts at jam clones back in the because of that popularity and whatnot. But usually those jam clones, even if they're rough, are still kind of fun to play because they're modeling their game after one of the greatest arcade basketball video games of all time. So tips, Andrew. So I wanted to do a quick segment on the best ways to get into the top 10, the best ways to record your footage, what I'm looking for in a highlight for the top 10 plays of the week.
Yeah, sounds good.
So the best way to get the highlights to me are either Google Drive link, YouTube link, or a direct email from your console to me. So like emailing me the highlight, because I believe that you can do that on certain consoles. So, or you can email it to yourself and then forward me that email. But Google Drive link and or YouTube link is the best way. Why? Because it preserves the highlights quality, right? So like if you upload to YouTube in, 1080p, so like 1920 by 1080 and 60 FPS, then I can grab that off of YouTube in that super high quality and it will look awesome in the top 10. Or if you send me a Google Drive link, then that's going to be the file in its raw format and it's going to be that high quality, right? So that's going to look a lot better in the top 10. It's going to really show off your play and that will work out really well. So if you just send me a Twitter post or X post, if you're not verified on that platform on X, the highlight's only going to be in 720p max. So it'll be 1280 by 720. And it will be 60 FPS, but you lose some of that quality for that highlight. So it's a little bit blurrier in the top 10. I can try to do my best to upscale it and make it look a little bit better, but it will never look quite as good as that 1080p highlight. Then you also have the issue if you just upload from your console, from your PS4, let's say, or your Xbox One to, social media, to Discord, to X, because those highlights are only going to come out in 720p at 30 FPS. So then it's going to make it so I'm going to have to try to convert that to 60 FPS, upscale it, and it will never look quite as good in that regard. So that's kind of like some tips on, how to get me the highlights and, how to get them to me in high quality. I also want to point out that there's been people posting highlights on the Discord, and these highlights that they're posting on the Discord are usually very low quality in relation to frame rate. They're 30 FPS or under, and normally they're 480p or 720p. And if I download those highlights from the NLSC Discord, they're going to be that poor quality, and it's going to be very hard for me to get it into the countdown. Now, as far as recording your gameplay, my recommendation is to use, if you have NVIDIA, use their Shadow Play recording software that comes with the graphics card. Or if you're using AMD, using AMD Relive. And the cool thing about AMD Relive is it actually has, your straight recording feature, so you can record in like 1080p at 60 FPS, but it also has a replay buffer, like a time shift option, where you can record like the previous 15 seconds or 30 seconds or 1 minute, etc. Or you can use something like Reminisce Action, which Andrew and I both love. I've been using it since 2014. There is a free version of it with a watermark, but it does cost $20 if you want the full version. But that gives you just endless options for recording. You can record right from the application, or you can record the full screen, like your desktop. You can record just a specific window or like a specific area, and you can do all of that in high quality, even up to 4K if you'd like. I'd prefer the highlights to come in at 1080p at 60 FPS, but yes, you can go higher than that with Action. And it also has the time shift feature under both the application recording and under your desktop recordings, like your screen recording. And you can record highlights, for the previous 10 seconds, 12 seconds, 15 seconds, like the previous 5 minutes, etc. So that is a great application. OBS, I'm still not a huge fan of it because it kind of stutters a little bit, and I've tried all these different settings, as have other users, and a lot of times you just can't get that awesome recording. But OBS is another good option because it's free and because it can record your display, or it can record a specific application, and it has a ton of configuration options. You can record in 1080p at 60 FPS, like I said. And the last thing I'll say about it is, don't be shy. If you think a highlight is good, send it over. I'll take a look at it, and I'll try to get you into the countdown. It doesn't matter what year the game came out. It doesn't matter how old that game is or what platform it is on. We accept highlights from any game, any console. We accept highlights from mobile games, Andrew. The mobile games have made the top 10 before. So, yeah. Those are my tips on, how to get me the highlights, what you can record with, and, what we're looking for.
And we should say that it's a basketball game countdown, so as much as I'd love to see Fallout highlights and GTA highlights, please keep it to the virtual hardwood, obviously. Jokes aside, though, obviously when you record on consoles, you can use something like an Elgato as well. Elgato Game Capture HD 60 is what Derek and I use. There are newer models that have no delay between the capture on screen and the console and TV, so you can actually play it while watching the screen. I do have one. I haven't tried it on my new desktop. That's not necessary, though. As long as you've hooked it up to a monitor or a TV, you can just watch on there and record on the screen. But you do have to have a decent PC to use the newer Elgatos. But even with my old desktop that I finally retired last year, I was able to use the HD60 without any problems. And you can get some fantastic highlights. Derek can attest to how much better my highlights have gotten since I'm actually sending them to him in 60 FPS. So, yeah, the Elgato is very easy to hook up. The only complication you might run into is with PS3, which has inbuilt HDCP, which will scramble the HDMI signal for security reasons. But if you use an HDMI splitter, you can actually bypass that. So that is the way to record off PS3. Again, Derek, I might have to put together some guides for things like that.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. Yeah, I love my Elgato HD60. I actually have the newer version that has the quote-unquote, no lag, where, you can actually play it on your computer and, just look at Elgato while you're playing it and record that way. But to be honest with you, the recordings were not coming out as smooth as the HD60. There was an occasional stutter here and there and whatnot. So I ended up just switching back to my old HD60, and it's been absolutely perfect. But the good thing is with HD60, with recording with an Elgato in general, is the fact that that's just going to be high quality footage, Andrew, like no matter what. And when you get that file, you upload it to YouTube, or seal the file and then upload it to Google Drive. That's how you can get me the highlight, right? You can send me that link, and we can hit the ground running with that.
Before we go on, a reminder that the NLSC podcast comes out every week on the NLSC, me-live.com, as well as our YouTube channel. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast apps. If you're listening on any of those apps, we'd greatly appreciate a review. To keep up with the show and everything we're doing with basketball gaming in general, connect with us on social media. On Twitter and Facebook, we are the NLSC. We also have an Instagram, NLSC Basketball, and on YouTube, we're youtube.com/NBA Live Series Center. Once again, visit us at nba-live.com, where in addition to the podcast, you'll also find all of our original content, as well as our forum and modding community.
So, Andrew, Troyden, you're familiar with him. He is a prominent YouTuber who's been, kind of rose in popularity because of his MyTEAM content, with the NBA 2K series. And he's been, an active MyTEAM player for around a decade now at least. And he has a massive following on YouTube and on X and whatnot. I believe he's part of the Take-Two Next Maker program. I know that he still creates content for them and whatnot. Well, he uploaded a video, and this got widely circulated after what happened. He uploaded a video of him opening packs in MyTEAM, attempting to get the 100 overall Kareem. Now, I want people to understand what Take-Two did with this. They made the odds so low for people to get the Kareem in order for them to just absolutely make bank off of these consumers. He opened on stream, on video, over 800 packs, Andrew. And people did the calculations. It's over $2,000 spent. Over 800 packs, he did not get the Kareem.
For $2,000. $2,000 for 800 packs. Ridiculous to begin with. But to not even get it.
He did not get the Kareem. Now, he did this all on video. And he also didn't get some of the other prominent cards that were being promoted by Take-Two. So a 2K Next Maker, at least going by their profile on X, all that jazz. So at ATJ _ all that jazz, commented about their feelings about what happened to Troyden and this MyTEAM BS. And the reason why we're bringing this up is because we are actually applauding all that jazz. Somebody who was a 2K content creator, who was popular on social media as a result of that, and somebody who kind of, put their neck on the line by speaking out like this.
Which is what we've been asking for. We've been saying, look, people with influence and a big following need to speak up, and people are. And as we said last week, it's very heartening to see. So, yeah, we absolutely want to salute him here.
Yeah, it takes courage to do this. I just want to point that out. So he states, I've worked in the charity sector for 15 years. What Troyden did last night was bad enough for a hugely successful content creator who will make money from the video. Take a moment to think about the people who have a legitimate gambling addiction, which is an illness, who are living paycheck to paycheck or in major debt, doing the same thing, but in silence. This stuff destroys lives. Genuinely, I've seen the worst of it. It can happen to anyone that has a disposition for addiction. In previous years, there was a tipping point, as you could at least buy the card with the MT generated, but an addict will keep going for something completely unattainable. I truly hope we never see gambling-only content like this again in a video game, ever. This is why I stopped spending money on the game for good in November. Now, I need to point something out. It's bad enough that they're preying on people who have that gambling problem, right? who have that gambling addiction, who are doing this in silence and throwing away their money. But just another thing I want to remind people of, this game is targeted at our youth.
Yeah.
Right? This game is rated E for everyone, right? Our youth is being absolutely targeted with all of these same gambling mechanics, with the microtransaction BS. And they're trying to get their hands on their parents' credit cards, their grandparents' credit cards. They're either begging for money, or they're using the little money that they have from jobs, if they have them, and using it to gamble on this game. I really appreciate the fact that All That Jazz, put their neck out there and spoke up for that silent population, right? And not only is he speaking up for that silent population, that vulnerable population, but also speaking up for those who are speaking out as well. He's like standing in tandem with those people. And I want to point out, and I don't know if this happened after he made the post or whatnot, but when he originally made that post, it said that he was a 2K Next maker in his profile on X. But I checked again the next day, and that's removed now. So I don't know if he quit the program or if somebody told him he was no longer a part of the program. I don't want to speculate on that, but if he's out of the program and that's what's best for him and that's best for his sanity based on everything that, he believes in and whatnot, good for him.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately he stood up for what's right. Whether he put his next maker status on the line knowing that he could lose it, or whether he quit, as you say, either way, he was doing the right thing. And I really liked that he pushed back on one comment he got, which said, look, these are grown men, they're responsible for their actions, grown adults are responsible for their gambling. And he said, no, it is an illness. It is a compulsion. A lot of people recovering from drug addiction try to replace that with video games, and now the video games are targeting their addiction in predatory ways. Stephanie Sterling, the Jimquisition, has covered this on many occasions, obviously. So it's great to see people pushing back on yes, we do have to take responsibility for our own actions, but at the same time, let's call out predatory mechanics for what they are. And, as he says, it's the videos like Troy Dan's, although they do highlight the dangers of it, they highlight the expense, and they highlight the low odds, it does also glorify it somewhat. So whatever the intentions of the video, which I guess come down to creating content at the end of the day, it does still glorify it to some extent, even if it is showing the downsides of it. So I absolutely agree with his point that we really shouldn't be showcasing these mechanics in that way, because it's not showcasing it with a critical lens, or as intentionally critical of a lens as it should be. So again, hats off to him for really calling this out.
No, I'm actually happy that Troy Den posted that video, and I'm glad that others have. There's been other videos that have gone up, circulated on X, gone up on YouTube, where people opened 500 packs, 700 packs, spent thousands of dollars. Not even like big-time content creators either, not people with, hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Some people with, maybe they're monetized on their YouTube channel, but they don't even have close to the following as somebody like Troy Den. And by posting these videos, Andrew, they're showing how greedy NBA 2K is, how absolutely slimy what they're doing is. And it's getting more people to talk about it. It's getting more people to boycott that mode. For example, another thing that All That Jazz did, in their X bio, it listed at NBA 2K MyTEAM. But after Troy Dan posted that video and after All That Jazz made that post, he removed at NBA 2K MyTEAM from his bio. So that removes support from somebody who has a blue check, who, was a next maker and whatnot. And that is a bad look. That's a very bad look for Take-Two.
It's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So I love the fact that these videos are going up, and 2K even pushed the envelope further. So they advertised, I want to say a day or two after All That Jazz made that post, they advertised a new Wild West promotion in MyTEAM. And this was for Kobe and Shaq cards. And they were to be special inserts in packs. So what does that do, Andrew? Those cards are not available outside of packs.
Yeah.
And the odds, once again, are incredibly low. So again, using people like Kobe and Shaq, greats of the game, and whatnot, to get every single penny they possibly can from these vulnerable consumers and whatnot. No blame should be put on consumers for this. This is all on Take-Two. This is all on the suits. This is all on, those people who support this type of content and in these predatory mechanics.
It's like you've said before, don't blame the consumers. We need to blame the greedy corporations here. Yes, we are all responsible for our own finances, our own actions, what have you, but these are predatory mechanics. We've called it out so many times. It's very heartening to see more and more people speaking out on it. And yeah, I see a point that it does ultimately have that effect of showing how predatory it is, how greedy it is, how low the odds are. So it is important, an important service in that respect. It's just, you just don't want to see anyone glorifying that and think, oh, this is the way to do it. This, pump money into this mode.
No, the funny thing is, though, is it's not this is the way to do it, because every single one of the videos that I've seen where they're opening these hundreds and hundreds of packs, they don't even get the card they're trying to get.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not like saying, hey, I opened 500 packs and I got him, right? It's I opened 500 packs. In Troyden's case, I opened 800 packs and I still didn't get the 100 overall Kareem, the card that I was trying to get. And then at the end of Troyden's video, he just goes straight to his NBA 2K icon and uninstalls the game. Like, I'm sure he installed it back after the stream and whatnot, but he went in a fit of rage and uninstalled the game.
Yeah. But let's finish up on a lighter note here, Derek. We have a community question again this week that you put out there. So how about we open up the mailbag?
To the mailman, the pump fake. What an unbelievable dunk!
So, Andrew, I asked the community, when Freestyle Control, right stick dribbling, triple threat, was introduced in NBA Live 2003, it was a game changer, and to this day, it has made a positive impact on basketball gaming. Do you have any ideas for gameplay enhancements that you would like to see in new games? Now, Andrew, for the responses, we did receive quite a few, but most people were just talking about how they appreciated NBA Live 2003's right stick implementation and talking about how, basically they loved it.
It was revolutionary, absolutely. It advertised itself as such on the box. And look, video game developers, publishers are going to do that. They're going to hype up everything about the game they're trying to sell. But I think that Freestyle Control did live up to the hype. It is one of those features that has persisted throughout the years. It took a while for 2K to get on board with it, and I still don't know why they didn't want to do that. Maybe it was the bad blood they have with EA. They didn't want to take an NBA Live idea, which I think was to 2K's detriment for a number of years there. They did eventually bring it in with 2K13, and the rest is history. The fact that we still have that control method in the game 20 years later, over 20 years later, in fact, is a testament to how it was the right move for dribbling controls and triple threat controls and defensive controls as well. Expanded player control in basketball video games. The use of that right analog stick was the right way to go. No pun intended. So it was revolutionary. And yeah, people are reminiscing about what a big impact that had on their basketball gaming.
Yeah, so I posted highlights today, actually, from NBA Live 2004. This was the PS2 version. And it was me utilizing that right stick in triple threat and with dribbles and whatnot with Tracy McGrady and Vince Carter, because they're together on the East All-Stars in that video game. And you can just see how amazing that implementation was. The ability to hold the ball behind you with one hand, like kind of like Jordan-esque and whatnot. The ability to jab step and then spin either right or left. Just the quick moves you can make utilizing that right stick, whether with the ball or when it's on the floor, when you have your dribble and whatnot. And the jump stop just in NBA Live 2004 makes it that much sweeter. And how about that ability to throw it down off of a jump stop back in the early 2000s, right? That was unheard of. Not only a jump stop, but one that you triggered with a jump stop button. Because remember, NBA Live 2003 didn't have that jump stop button. But they were doing so many cool things with the NBA Live series around that time. And it is still unbelievable to me that it took 2K 10 years before they adopted right stick dribbling. Like we stated on prior podcasts, I don't know if it was a pride thing where they didn't want to switch over to right stick dribbling or if they had issues implementing it and whatnot. But 10 years it took them after EA Sports had already created that implementation. So that is some wild stuff. And I also want to point out, one of the responses was that they believed that the dribbling in the new 2Ks isn't as good. And I actually see where they're coming from, because the control oftentimes is just not there. Things are over animated. There's a lot of ball warping. It doesn't feel as reactive a lot of times in the newer games. It's not as simple and easy to do the simple and easy moves like crossovers and going behind the back and whatnot. So I see where people are coming from there.
Oh, for sure. In fact, one of my pet peeves in recent games is that you can't just flick down, or if you're on camera relative, back away from the player to go behind the back. You have to now go, it's a more complicated turn. I say complicated. There'll be someone out there that will say, oh, get good. My favorite phrase, Derek. But it's not impossible, but it's not as straightforward for a straightforward move. And NBA Live had the same problem with their freestyle control in Live 18 and 19, where some of these simpler moves were performed by more advanced movement on the stick, which is counterintuitive to my mind. So I absolutely agree that there's some overcomplication there of the dribbling moves in recent games.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that are over animated. That is the game being over animated. And I think that sometimes simpler is better. It's a better approach for more fun gameplay, and it's even a better approach, Andrew, for more realistic on-court action, right? So I think that, we've talked about it with the new NBA 2Ks, just the unbelievable amount of artificial boosts which trigger all of these ridiculous, unrealistic animations and whatnot, unrealistic stops that shouldn't take place, unrealistic suction, players being overpowered more than they would, than any player could be in real life and whatnot. I think that over animating the NBA 2Ks has definitely hurt the series.
It has, and some of these subtle changes to the control configuration as well. And control is paramount. It is a vital part of gameplay, that the game feels good on the sticks, that the input is logical. And yes, the complex moves may take more complicated inputs, but the simple moves should definitely be very simple inputs. To me, that just makes sense. But a lot of people did talk about how they loved Freestyle Control, rightfully so, and how they didn't think they'd ever see as big an innovation as Freestyle again. In fact, Fred here at MPA_Sput says, I don't think we'll ever see an innovation as big as Freestyle dribbling again, because what could change the game as much? I guess realistic physics, some kind of ragdoll physics, if you will. But as far as actually revolutionizing the control, we've seen them try with shot aiming, but it just hasn't worked out as well.
No, I think the best control schemes in NBA 2K's history were with NBA 2K16 and NBA 2K17. I've said it before, just the right stick usage, the way dribbling feels overall, the way you can use the right stick around the rim. So like if I go baseline and I push the right stick towards the out of bounds, he'll do like a reverse layup or a reverse dunk on the other side of the hoop. Or if I attack the rim, going left, I can push the joystick to the left and throw it down with my left hand, or I can push it forward to throw it down in front of the rim, or I can, push it right to throw it down on the right side of the rim. Overall, the dribbling in those games makes a lot more sense than today's dribbling, less ball warping, right? Going behind the back makes sense. Going between the legs makes sense. Pulling off crossovers feels better and whatnot. So I think that the overall right stick usage on 2K16 and 2K17 are probably the best in 2K's history. And for NBA Live, honestly, right stick implementation, probably NBA Live 2004 through Live 2006 is the best that they had it.
I agree. And to that point, the last big innovation that I would say is a step forward in that regard would be the combination of dribbling and shooting on the right stick. I was very skeptical when they brought that in with 2K14. It was there in 2K13. You could switch between the shot stick and the dribble stick, or use the modifier to switch between the two on the fly. But when they brought in the combined Pro Stick with 2K14, which we still have through to today, and Live also would adopt that in 18 and 19, I was skeptical at first, but it has worked out really well, that flicking the stick to get those moves, then you can flick and then hold to make a dribbling move into a shot. It works out really well. So I would say that's the last big innovation we had that was positive across the board, and that we still have. The fact that we still have it and it does work, maybe not so much in the over-animated games, as you said, but the idea, the concept behind that combined shot stick and dribble stick, the Pro Stick, works.
You were skeptical because you thought it was going to make you shoot when you didn't intend to more often than not.
Yes.
But they did a great job with implementation where, you rarely or never shoot accidentally.
Exactly. You need to hold it down and keep holding it to actually go into that shot. So, no, it works very well. So let's see what the community had to say about Freestyle Control and such innovations. Bucky T says, I really miss the simpler times back in the early and mid-2000s. The dribbling is atrocious these days in newer hoop titles. I wouldn't mind a new release with advanced graphics like 2K14, with simple yet effective controls, like pressing less buttons to pull off good moves. And Nate Starshow has a very similar view, says, right stick dribbling is now way too complicated. Every shot, layup, and dunk incorporates pushing the right stick in 2 to 3 directions and spinning it around, plus adding left and right trigger modifications. One button for jump shooting and one button for layups would be nice. And Derek, a lot of people do advocate for those old school controls with some of the newer mechanics.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think it makes you less of a gamer either.
Oh, no.
Right? I think that when I play a game like NBA Live 2004, when I played against Nate, when I played against my brothers and whatnot, those games were incredibly competitive, and they were more fun than playing the newer games against anybody else. Because why? Because the newer games are absolutely flooded with frustrating mechanics related to over-animation or inputs not working properly on the controller, or at least the way you feel they should work in relation to what happens on the screen. I feel like there's advantages in the gameplay, even for some of those older titles, in comparison to the newer titles, in the form of things like foot planting, Andrew. Like NBA Live 2004, a game that came out 20 years before NBA 2K24, actually has much better foot planting, right? So you feel like you have more control over your player all over the floor. You're not skating everywhere and whatnot. I actually think that the triple threat, when you're not putting the ball on the floor on NBA Live 2004, is better than NBA 2K24. It feels better because when you go to do a move, you know exactly what you can pull off. There's nothing random that plays out. And you're not worried about when you turn a corner, like our example earlier, when you turn a corner, just being absolutely sucked sideways or backwards into a defender all the time and whatnot. So, I think there's a little bit of suction in NBA Live 2004 because it was their first year implementing those two-man animations and whatnot, but nowhere near, we talk about volume and how much that can, impact things, nowhere near to NBA 2K24.
Well, also, it's a game that came out over 20 years ago now, right? So we do expect it to be slightly more primitive. We expect a modern game to be much better about it.
Yeah, but the rim mechanics are also better in NBA Live 2004 than NBA 2K24. The game actually has advantages from a gameplay perspective, and even from a competitive gameplay perspective over NBA 2K24.
But isn't that disappointing in a way? I mean, it's great that we have these classics we can go back to and that they hold up so well, but we should be in a golden age. We've got more powerful tech than ever. It shouldn't be like that, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but not everything gets better with time.
True.
Bad decisions over time impact the greater product, to be completely honest with you. And if you don't have the right minds on the job, if you don't have the right devs on the job, if you don't have the right suits making the decisions, anything can be, can regress or go backwards and whatnot. And I just think the series has gone backwards in a major way, both from it being, anti-consumer, more anti-consumer than it's ever been, and from a gameplay perspective.
I was going to say, if your goal is to just bleed money out of your man, if your consumers treat them like ATMs, then the on-court experience, the gameplay experience, is going to be inferior, for sure. And look, when it comes to things like 2 buttons, the old 2 shoot buttons, one for dunk layup, one for jump shots, I mean, I'm in two minds about that, because on one hand it does feel primitive compared to some of the advancements we've had with the Pro Stick, and I'm not sure you could necessarily bring it back. But that being said, when I go back to those games, I can adjust and really enjoy it. And yeah, some people do understandably prefer the simpler controls, because sometimes deeper and more complex doesn't equal better controls or a more enjoyable experience on the sticks, for sure.
I'm not against it. And I want to remind our listeners that before the original 2K, so remember, the original NBA 2K only had one button for shooting and dunking, right? And layups and whatnot. It was all just under one button. NBA Action 98, aka NBA Fast Break 98, had the 2 buttons. It had a shoot button and a dribble drive button, right? So Visual Concepts was doing the 2 buttons for driving and shooting, like having separate buttons, even before NBA 2K for the Dreamcast came out. I am not completely against the 2-button concept. I can make it work. I actually enjoy it in some of the NBA Live games and whatnot. So I don't think that's a game breaker at all. In fact, some users would say that it gives them more control.
Oh, for sure. And some more praise for Freestyle Control and those early 2000s NBA Lives here. Don says, sheesh, this was a time. PS2, my favorite system. PS2 does rank up there as many people's favorite system and an absolute classic. One of the most successful consoles of all time, obviously. And Cabrillo says the most innovative thing to happen to sports gaming ever. It was mind-blowing at the time.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that it is the most innovative, as far as like a standalone feature. And that's what it was. It was just, hey, this is what you can do with the right stick, right? It wasn't about pushing a combination of buttons. All of that control was tied to that right stick. And like I said in my post, this changed basketball gaming forever. And once 2K adopted it for NBA 2K13, they never looked back.
And heading over to Facebook and our Discord for some more responses now. First on Facebook, Paul N says, I remember I was PC only and ended up buying a controller when this came out so I could do the Freestyle Control. Talking about Live 2003, of course. And that is something we had to do on PC. And it was kind of controversial at times in our community, Derek, because some people still wanted to use the keyboard. If they'd been using the keyboard for years, they could get away with that. And, I mean, I grew up playing both PC games and console games, so I was quite happy to use a controller on PC. In fact, I'd been using a gamepad on PC before that, not a dual analog one. I've always been very confused by people who say, oh, it's a console thing. Peripherals, a variety of peripherals, from steering wheels to gamepads to joysticks and complicated flight joysticks for flight sims, have been a staple of PC gaming for years. So the anti-gamepad crowd on PC, I've always been a bit confused by. There are games that I prefer to play with a keyboard and mouse, like Fallout and other first-person, third-person shooters, etc. But for a basketball game, a gamepad absolutely works better. And yes, many of us did have to invest in a dual analog stick for the first time. So yeah, I remember those debates in the community and people trying to get Freestyle to work with keyboard, which it did in a very limited way. And there is actually still keyboard support in 2K24, but it's very limited. At this point, Derek, my advice to people is you got to get with the times. It's been over 20 years. You need a gamepad. Yeah,
I think the only game that I ever played for any significant amount of time with a keyboard was Alien vs. Predator for the PC. I want to say that game came out in the early 2000s, and I played it over a friend's house, and he did not have a gamepad. But pretty much every other game that I've ever played has been with a controller. And yeah, I agree. I think that there's so many different options for controllers now. Like I said, I use an Xbox One wireless controller for all of my games on my PC and whatnot. But there's the Logitech 710. There's so many different options. I mean, you can use a PlayStation 4 controller or even a PlayStation 5 controller on your PC now. You can use an Xbox 360 controller. There's just endless options out there.
Exactly. We're spoiled for choice. We can use many peripherals these days, some that are designed specifically for PC, And of course, for a few iterations of Windows now, they do support those console controllers. So yeah, once again, many choices. Heading over to the Discord for a few more responses now. Once again, people reflecting on how much they love Freestyle Control and how innovative it was. Tin Pan Alley says, I prefer the Freestyle Control to anything done today by 2K. Pharmacist12 says, my first live was 2004, but yeah, I like Freestyle Controls more than isomotion in NBA 2K. Maz says, Freestyle Control was peak. And Pharmacist12 follows up by saying, Freestyle Control, greater than isomotion. I hated dribbling with the left stick. Now, I've been playing a lot of 2K6 over the past 6 months, or 8 months, I guess, Derek. Been playing it a bit this week as well, setting up some retro matchups and even some future matchups relative to 2K6, the 2011 NBA Finals. You can check out that video on our YouTube channel right now. But I can use isomotion. I've gotten used to it. I've become more open-minded about it. But I'll never prefer it to right stick dribbling, to Freestyle Control, or the Pro Stick, or any of those solutions.
I just find NBA Live 2003 through 2006 just a lot more enjoyable than the 2Ks at that time. For the simple reason that you had more control in the NBA Live games. It's just going from being able to, do any dribble move that you want, being able to operate any way you want in that triple threat. The ability those live games also have a better post game than the 2K series at the time. So being able to get down low, get on the block and, execute moves from that position and whatnot. So yeah, for all those reasons, we stuck with NBA Live throughout the early and mid 2000s and only switched to 2K with NBA 2K7 because NBA Live 07 for the 360 was such a disappointment.
Yeah,
and
right stick can't save that. There's no saving that with Freestyle Control.
I will say one thing. One advantage that I think the 2K series definitely has from, that 2004 to 2006, like around in those years, is the fact that their defensive mechanics felt a little less canned than what was in NBA Live. As you noticed on NBA Live 2004, when they added those two-man animations and whatnot, a lot of those blocks are just totally canned. And there is definitely suction on those blocks in Live 2004 where you're kind of dragged over unnaturally to the guy who's going to the hoop, and you're swatting him down and whatnot. And that can get frustrating at times.
And the double team steals, the can double team steals, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, the can double team steals, and then if you hold the ball for a couple seconds, your guy just drops the ball.
Yeah.
And whatnot. There's definitely too many canned sequences on defense in NBA Live 2004 and even on NBA Live 2005. But with the 2K series, playing defense overall at that time did feel a little bit more organic. There were less canned animations at the hoop on defense and whatnot.
While the dribbling controls were inferior, I will say that 2K6 was the year they brought in the shot stick and more control over shooting and finishing left or right, or what kind of dunk you wanted to finish with. And if you are backing down in 2K6 with a stronger player, when you get near the hoop, if you hold the stick towards the hoop, you can do a really nice drop step and go up for a power poster dunk. I love doing that with Shaq in that game, actually. So 2K was innovating with shooting, while Live really had dribbling down. If you look back at the history of both series, 2K always had those more advanced shooting mechanics, where Live had the stronger dribbling mechanics, and the best 2Ks since 2010 have kind of combined that, I would say. But yeah, 2K6 does have its strengths, but yeah, isomotion, those dribbling controls, not one of them.
Totally agree.
But thank you as always to everybody who responded to Derek's question. Derek puts out a question every week, and yeah, we love those enthusiastic responses to the questions and you joining the discussion each and every week.
Yeah, and people, keep speaking up about 2K's gambling mechanics. Keep speaking up about greedy companies who are taking advantage of consumers. All these companies that are anti-consumer. And I've stated before, EA Sports is not innocent here either. We've talked about Madden Ultimate Team. We've talked about NBA Live Mobile, etc. So keep speaking up and stand with your fellow gamer.
Absolutely. We will continue to do that on the show, of course. With that being said, that has brought us to the end of this week's show. As always, we thank you for tuning in and invite you to join us again next week and every week, either on the NLSC, nb-live.com, our YouTube channel, or your podcast app of choice. In the meantime, please connect with us on social media. That's where you can get in touch with us and, of course, stay up to date with all of our content. So, Derek, go ahead and plug the handles.
You can find me on X at D43G and at D4384. You can find me on YouTube at D43 and on the NLSC D43.
I am Andrew in the forum and Andrew NLSC on X. The NLSC is on X and Facebook at the NLSC. We are NLSC Basketball on Instagram and Threads. On YouTube, we are NBA Live Series Center. And of course, keep it locked to the NLSC itself, nba-live.com, for everything we do for basketball video games. So, thank you once again for tuning in, and until next time, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Derek.
Go get buckets, everyone.